A homeless little girl saved a billionaire CEO's life on a cold New York night, and nothing was the same after that. The man everyone knew as powerful, untouchable, and heartless was found lying on a wet street, gasping for air, while a barefoot child pressed her tiny hands against his chest, crying for help. People gathered, phones recorded. Sirens screamed in the distance. When he finally opened his eyes, the first thing he saw wasn't flashing lights or his luxury car. It was her face, dirty, trembling, and full of kindness. She whispered something that made the millionaire freeze, something no one else could have known. From that moment, his world of wealth, fame, and control began to crumble. No one knew who she was or what secret she carried that would change his life forever. Ethan Cole had everything the world could offer: money, power, respect, and silence. As the billionaire CEO of Cole Dynamics, a tech giant in New York City, his life ran on precision. Chauffeured cars, private jets, and meetings in glass boardrooms that overlooked the skyline. Yet beneath the sharp suits and polished smile, Ethan carried something no one saw, a hollow ache that no success could fill. His wife had passed away 3 years ago, and since then he had built his empire higher, as if more floors could bury his loneliness. That night, after another empty charity gala, Ethan had ordered his driver, Marcus, to take a shortcut through Lower Manhattan. The rain was heavy, the streets nearly empty. He wasn't wearing his seatbelt, checking an email, when everything changed. A child's scream, screeching tires, the crash. Then darkness. When Ethan opened his eyes again, the world spun. And there she was, a tiny girl in a torn hoodie, barefoot, drenched in rain. She had pulled him away from the street, her small hands shaking. She couldn't have been older than 9. "Don't move," she said softly, her voice trembling but firm. "You almost got hit." That was the night Lily entered his world. She refused to leave, even after the ambulance came. When paramedics checked Ethan's pulse, Lily stood beside him, her big brown eyes full of worry. Marcus tried to get her away, but Ethan stopped him. There was something about her, something raw and real, in a city full of masks. Later, at the hospital, Ethan learned she had no guardian. A social worker, Grace, arrived and explained Lily had been on the streets for weeks. Her mother had gone missing after visiting a small clinic in Queens, leaving Lily with nothing but a torn photograph. Grace handed Ethan the photo to calm the girl. His hand froze. The picture showed a smiling woman, standing beside a much younger Ethan at one of his own charity events from years ago. He didn't remember her name, but he remembered the event. It was the night his wife had made him promise to never forget the people outside the glass. Now, that promise echoed like a ghost. Ethan sat there, silent, staring at the photo while Lily whispered, "That's my mom. She said you help people." He looked at her again, her soaked clothes, dirt-streaked cheeks, and those eyes filled with something stronger than fear. Hope. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't know what to say. Before he could respond, a nurse rushed in. "Sir, you need to see this," she said, leading him to the hallway. On the wall was a bulletin board with clinic flyers and patient records. Someone had scribbled across a paper with red ink, "Transferred, unknown location." Ethan turned back toward Lily, but she was gone. Her small backpack lay on the chair. Inside, the same photograph, and a note that said, "If you want to find my mom, follow the truth they're hiding." And that was the moment Ethan Cole realized. The girl who saved him might be the key to something far bigger than either of them imagined. Ethan couldn't sleep after Lily disappeared. Her words, "Follow the truth they're hiding," played over and over in his head. For the first time in years, he felt something stronger than control, curiosity mixed with guilt. By morning, he made a decision that shocked everyone at his company. He cancelled all his meetings and told Marcus, "We're finding that girl." The trail began where she'd last been seen, the shelter near Brooklyn Bridge. Grace, the social worker, met them at the entrance. "Lily shows up here sometimes," she said, "but she never stays long. She's afraid someone's looking for her." Inside the shelter, the smell of damp clothes and instant soup filled the air. Ethan stood awkwardly, a billionaire in a place where people had nothing. Whispers followed him. He had donated millions to charities, but never set foot in one. Then a small voice came from behind the curtain. "You came." Lily stepped out, clutching her old backpack, the same one from that rainy night. Her eyes widened, as if she didn't believe he'd actually return. Ethan crouched slightly. "You left something behind," he said, holding up the photo. Lily looked at it, then shook her head. "No, I didn't. You did." Her words hit him like a brick. Before he could ask what she meant, she added quietly, "You made machines to help people, right? My mom said your company had one that could watch your heartbeat and tell doctors if something's wrong. She was part of that program." Ethan's throat tightened. He had funded a project like that years ago, a wearable medical monitor meant for low-income patients. It was cancelled after his wife's death. "That program ended," he said carefully. Lily's small hands clenched. "Then where did my mom go when they took her there?" Marcus shifted uneasily. Grace frowned. "What do you mean, took her there?" Lily explained that her mom, Emily, had gone to a free clinic in Queens that offered tests for people without insurance. After that, she stopped coming home. The clinic told Lily that Emily had been transferred to a better facility, but no one knew where. Ethan felt a cold weight in his chest. The program Lily described sounded almost identical to the one his company had quietly shut down. But no such transfers were ever approved. He told Marcus to drive them to Queens. The ride was quiet. Lily gazed out the window, memorizing every street like she'd walked them her whole life. When they arrived, the small clinic looked abandoned, peeling paint, broken windows, papers scattered inside. Grace pushed the door open. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Ethan walked toward a wall covered in old files, his pulse racing. One of the folders had his company logo faintly stamped on it, Cole Dynamics. He opened it and froze. Inside was a list of patient names. His hand trembled as he read the last entry. Emily Rose Carter, transferred to Unit 17. Before anyone could speak, a loud thud echoed from the back hallway. Lily gasped. Marcus whispered, "Someone's here." Then from the darkness a shadow moved, and a man's voice said coldly, "You shouldn't have come here, Mr. Cole." The voice in the hallway made everyone freeze. Marcus instinctively stepped in front of Ethan and Lily. Out of the shadows walked a man in a lab coat, holding a clipboard like a weapon. His badge read, "Dr. Harlan, Medical Coordinator. You have no right to be here," he snapped. "This clinic is closed. You're trespassing." Ethan took a step forward. "Then explain this," he said, holding up the file. "Emily Rose Carter. Where was she taken?" Dr. Harlan's expression didn't change, but a flicker of panic crossed his eyes. "She was moved to a private facility for her safety. Where?" Ethan demanded. The man looked at Lily, small, trembling, clutching her backpack, and his voice softened, almost pitying. "You wouldn't understand. She volunteered for a test program. We were helping people like her." Lily's voice broke through the tension. "My mom didn't volunteer for anything. She just wanted medicine." Dr. Harlan's eyes darted toward the exit. Marcus noticed and blocked his path. "Talk," he warned. But before the man could respond, 2 security guards appeared from the back door. "You need to leave," one barked. Grace tried to explain, but they pushed everyone toward the exit. Ethan glared at them. "You're making a mistake," he said. His voice sharp and cold, the tone of a man who used to command boardrooms and empires. Yet deep down, fear twisted inside him. What if his own company was behind this? They were forced outside into the freezing night. The clinic lights flickered off one by one, leaving them in near darkness. Grace whispered, "That doctor was hiding something." Ethan nodded. "And he knew my name before I said it." Lily tugged on his coat. "I know another place," she said quietly. "The shelter near the old bridge. Some people there. They talk about the unit." Ethan stared at her. "Unit 17? She nodded. "They say people go there and never come back." Marcus hesitated. "Boss, this is getting dangerous." Ethan looked at the little girl standing barefoot on the sidewalk, shivering but unafraid. He'd built his fortune on logic, data, and numbers. But now, this child's courage was the only thing keeping him moving forward. They reached the bridge hours later. Under the steel beams, a group of homeless men huddled around a fire barrel. One of them, an older veteran, recognized Lily. "You're the kid looking for her mom," he said softly. "We heard things. That clinic didn't just close, it was bought out. Some big corporation took over. People said they were running trials on uninsured patients." Ethan's chest tightened. "Do you know where?" The man pointed toward the dark outline of warehouses across the river. "They called it Unit 17, but I wouldn't go there. Folks say it's guarded." Before Ethan could respond, Marcus's phone buzzed. He looked down, and his face went pale. "It's from your company's private line," he said, his voice low. "They know we're here." Ethan took the phone, and a message flashed on the screen. "Stop searching. You're putting lives at risk." A gust of cold wind rushed through the bridge as Ethan looked at Lily. Her small voice broke the silence. "They're scared," she whispered. "That means we're close." And somewhere beyond the river, a single warehouse light flickered on, marking the path to Unit 17. The night was darker near the docks, the wind sharp enough to sting. The warehouse stood alone by the East River, its broken windows glowing faintly from a single light inside. Lily held Ethan's hand tightly as they approached the rusted door. Marcus whispered, "We shouldn't be here without backup." Ethan's voice was low but certain. "If they're hiding people here, we're not waiting." They slipped inside. The air smelled of chemicals and decay. Crates lined the walls, marked with medical labels that bore Ethan's company logo. His heart sank. He had created these supplies, but how had they ended up here? A weak groan echoed from somewhere in the shadows. Grace ran ahead and gasped. On a row of cots lay several unconscious people, hooked to worn-out monitors. Each machine bore the same tag, Prototype, Cold Dynamics, Medical Division. Ethan's pulse raced. These were the devices he'd ordered destroyed years ago. Someone had salvaged them and kept the trials running illegally. Before he could process it, footsteps thundered from behind. Men in black jackets entered, their flashlights cutting through the dark. One shouted, "No one move." Marcus pushed Lily behind a crate and squared his stance. "Get her out," he whispered. A tall man stepped forward, the same Dr. Harlan from the clinic, but now his polite mask was gone. "You should have stayed in your tower, Mr. Cole," he said coldly. "You had everything. Why dig up something you buried yourself?" Ethan stared him down. "I buried nothing. You turned my research into this," Dr. Harlan smirked. "You're mistaken. The board approved everything. Your silence gave us permission." The words cut deep. Ethan's mind flashed back to the day his wife died. He'd cancelled that program to grieve, but he never checked where it went after. And now, people like Lily's mother were paying for that silence. Lily stepped out suddenly, voice trembling but strong. "Where's my mom?" Dr. Harlan looked surprised. "She was one of our best results." "Brave woman. She survived longer than most." Lily's knees buckled. Ethan caught her before she fell, anger boiling through him. "You used people like her," he said. "You made them disappear," Dr. Harlan shrugged. "Progress requires sacrifice. You of all people should know that." Ethan clenched his fists. "Not this kind." The storm outside roared as lightning flashed through the broken roof. Marcus lunged first, disarming one of the guards. Chaos erupted, shouts, metal clanging, the sound of crates crashing. Grace ran to help the weak patients, while Ethan and Marcus held off the men. Then a scream, Lily's voice. Ethan turned. Dr. Harlan had grabbed her, pressing a syringe to her arm. "You want the truth?" he hissed. "Then you'll watch her become the next test." Ethan froze. "Stop! Take me instead!" Harlan's eyes gleamed with hatred. "It's too late, Cole. You created this world." A deafening crack split the air as lightning struck a power line nearby, plunging the warehouse into total darkness. And in that final flash of light, Ethan saw Lily collapse. Ethan's heart stopped as Lily crumpled to the cold floor. The syringe rolled away, glinting faintly in the flickering light. For a split second, everything went silent. The storm outside, the shouting, even his own thoughts. Then he dropped to his knees. "Lily, stay with me!" His voice cracked, breaking through the chaos. Her tiny chest barely moved. Grace rushed over, trembling. "She's not breathing properly," she whispered. Ethan pressed his trembling hands against her heart, counting each compression as the thunder shook the roof. He had saved corporations, markets, and reputations, but never a life. "Come on, kid," he begged. "Don't give up on me!" Behind him, Marcus fought off the remaining guards, tackling one to the ground. Dr. Harlan tried to flee toward the back exit, but Marcus caught him by the collar. "You're not going anywhere," he growled. Lily suddenly gasped, a faint, broken sound, but it was enough. Grace helped her sit up, tears streaming down her face. "You're okay, sweetheart," she whispered. Ethan pulled her close, relief washing through him, only to see blood on her sleeve. The syringe had scratched her arm. "What was in that?" He shouted at Harlan. The doctor sneered. "A prototype serum, incomplete, dangerous." Marcus slammed him against the wall. "Then fix it," he snapped. But before anyone could move, one of the unconscious patients groaned. Grace turned and gasped. "Ethan, look." The monitors flickered back to life. On one cot lay a woman with the same soft brown hair and fragile frame as Lily. Her pulse was weak, but steady. "Mom," Lily whispered, eyes wide. Ethan couldn't breathe. Emily Rose Carter, alive, barely. Grace hurried to stabilize her, barking instructions Ethan didn't understand. He only knew one thing: he wasn't letting her die here. "Marcus," he said, voice firm, "get the van. We're taking them both out." Dr. Harlan spat blood, laughing bitterly. "You'll never make it. Your company owns this place. They'll bury you before they let this story out." Ethan stared at him, something breaking inside. "Then they'll bury a billionaire who's not afraid anymore." He turned back to Lily, brushing her damp hair from her forehead. Her voice was faint, but her words were sharp enough to cut through the storm. "You kept your promise. You came for the truth." Those words hit him harder than any blow. His wife had said them once, long ago, when she made him swear to use his wealth for good. And now a homeless child was reminding him of the same vow. Sirens wailed in the distance, police and ambulances speeding toward the dock. Ethan carried Lily's mother in his arms, Marcus supporting Lily as they ran through the rain. Behind them, sparks erupted from the warehouse as an explosion ripped through the building, fire lighting the night sky. They dove behind a wall as debris rained down. Marcus shouted over the roar, "What now?" Ethan looked toward the flames, his face wet with rain and tears. "Now," he said, voice steady, "we tell the world what they did." And as the sirens grew louder, a dark figure stepped out from a nearby car, holding an umbrella, and Ethan froze. It was Victoria, his own PR chief. Her expression was unreadable. "You shouldn't have come here, Ethan," she said quietly. "They know everything." The storm raged harder because Ethan suddenly realized the fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. Morning broke over New York City like a slow exhale after a night of thunder. The storm had ended, but its mark remained, broken glass near the docks. The faint smell of smoke carried by the wind. Ethan Cole stood outside Mount Sinai Hospital, hands tucked into the pockets of his rain-soaked coat. Inside, Lily and her mother lay in recovery. Both alive, both safe. He hadn't slept in 2 days. The explosion at Unit 17 had made headlines. Illegal human trials linked to Cole Dynamics' subsidiary. His company's board tried to spin it, to bury the truth. But Ethan refused. For the first time in his life, he walked into a press conference not to control a story, but to confess one. He told the truth. About the hidden trials, about his silence, about the child who had saved him, not just from an accident, but from a lifetime of looking the other way. By the end, his voice broke. "I built towers of steel and glass," he said, "but a child living under a bridge showed me what real strength looks like." The room fell silent. No one clapped. No one spoke. Some just lowered their heads. It wasn't a scandal anymore. It was a reckoning. Ethan resigned that day as CEO. The billionaire, who once owned the skyline, walked away with nothing but a decision to build something better from the ashes. Grace became the new director of a community initiative, one fully funded by Ethan's personal savings. Marcus joined her as security and logistics, saying he was done guarding rich men who hide behind tinted glass. And Lily, she became the heart of it all. Weeks later, on a soft spring afternoon, a crowd gathered in Prospect Park. Children ran between rows of new white tents, their laughter carrying in the wind. A banner read, "Project Lily, free mobile clinics for families in need." Grace handed Ethan an envelope sealed with the foundation's logo. Inside was a certificate naming Lily Carter as the honorary founder. Ethan smiled faintly. "She deserves that and more." Lily ran toward him, her small frame stronger now, color back in her cheeks. Her mother followed, leaning on Grace's arm but smiling for the first time in years. "You kept your promise," Lily said. Ethan knelt down, meeting her eyes. "No," he said softly. "You kept mine." She tilted her head, confused. He handed her a small velvet box. Inside was a silver locket. One side held a picture of her and her mom, taken that morning. The other showed Ethan, soaked and dazed the night she saved him. She looked at it and smiled. "So we don't forget?" Ethan nodded. "So no one does." Tears welled in Grace's eyes. Even Marcus looked away, pretending not to feel it. As the day went on, volunteers filled the park, nurses, doctors, former patients. The air buzzed with energy, with kindness, with the sound of something new being born out of pain. By sunset, the crowd began to leave, but Lily stayed behind, flying a small kite over the grass. The string danced in her hand as the wind carried it high, tracing golden streaks across the orange sky. Ethan watched her quietly. In that simple moment, he understood what real wealth was. Not money, not recognition, but the peace of knowing he had done something that mattered. The city lights began to glow in the distance, reflecting off the river where everything had started. Grace joined him, her voice gentle. "They're calling for a judgment hearing tomorrow. About the company, the illegal trials, everything." Ethan nodded. "Let them. The truth's already out." The next morning, the verdict was public. Several executives were convicted, including Dr. Harlan. Coal Dynamics was stripped of its medical division. But the judge's final statement echoed far beyond the courtroom. The acts of one man cannot erase the damage of many, but the courage to face one's own empire may begin to heal it. Reporters called it the Billionaire's redemption. Ethan didn't read the headlines. He spent that morning at the park again, helping Grace unload supplies for the next clinic run. When he looked up, Lily waved from across the field, her kite soaring higher than before. He smiled, whispering to himself, "You saved my life," and showed me how to live it. As dusk settled over the park, the locket around Lily's neck caught the last light of the sun, glinting like a quiet promise, one that would outshine any tower of glass or gold. And on the wall of the new shelter, etched in silver, were the words that closed his story forever. For the little girl who taught a billionaire that the greatest power in life is kindness. The wind carried those words softly across the city, a reminder that sometimes it takes the smallest heart to heal the biggest soul.